This is not.
Awaken World News with Patrick David Bonin. Good day, lovely people. Thanks for joining me today on this second broadcast of Awaken World News, where we expose the fall and the hidden agenda of the Babylon. In today's story, we'll be talking about the hidden health risks of being not poked. Ooh. We're going to be looking at the UFO invasion panic that happened back in the 40s. We're going to be talking about the Palestine train fire. We'll also be talking about the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. And on the extended version of the news that'll only be seen on Rumbel is a little rant from myself that I haven't been able to do yet about the poke. And also we're going to be talking about what might really be going on right now that they're trying to distract us with and do this sleight of hand. So first thing, we're going to talk about the health risks involved with not being poked. And I assume most of you who are watching this are not poked. And so that's why you better be careful out there, because now scientists claim you are more likely to develop type 2 diabetes if you're against. So, I heard that a while back they did a study here, it's just a few months ago here in Canada, that said that if you are unpoked, that you are more likely to get in car crashes and to speed. When I see such silliness like this, all we can do is laugh, because this is how they're exposing themselves. So I'm not going to spend much time on that. I just thought it was kind of a joke and we should chuck that in there to keep things light. So what's going on here with these shot down UFOs? So China has got this new technology called a balloon. When we know that satellites can see within 50 centimeters. So, that doesn't seem to line up, does it? There's spy satellites that can see inside your apartment and take crystal clear pictures, even through clouds. Okay? So, this idea that these are spy balloons. Yeah, they're spy balloons. Yeah, that makes sense. They just floated all the way from China. And they're shooting them down everywhere now. And first of all, if this was UFOs, is that what we should do, is just shoot at them? Let's shoot them down. Yeah, let's shoot these people down that have let's shoot these UFOs down that likely have more technology than any of us. Yeah, that seems really smart. Well, to be honest, this has actually been an agenda that has been exposed a while back. So I'll let you see a little video, but this is a ex-FBI agent talking about this agenda.
They're going to have to do something else. And I think fake alien invasion is one of the main things they have ready. And here's one of the keys to understanding fake alien invasion is that our military, for instance, our military industrial complex is so large, so huge, it's larger than many countries. There's segments of the Pentagon that I refer to as the dark Pentagon. It is military officials that are working with the cabal because they really need to get the fear up to get back on the map with this fake alien invasion. And we're going to see a lot more politicians start supporting the Tic Tacs and the UAPs. And they're all going to be getting online to support them and to show how important they are.
I made a video a while back on this topic and I showed a hologram that was unbelievable. And when you can use holograms and you can use all this technology, we can fake absolutely anything. And when the government's trying to get us to look at something, we should wonder what they're trying to trick us into. If you want to check out that video, I'll check it up right here, I think. And also with this situation, when we look back 2 days after Pearl Harbor, Many UFOs were sighted everywhere. It was a big invasion panic, and the stock market plummeted, and just a few days later, they declared war against Japan. Are we looking at the same situation here? Are we looking like they're trying to distract us with something to show us something else? And then February 1942, they released a bunch of weather balloons. All the Roswell stuff, remember? So they're using the same tricks over and over again on people. And this is why we have to realize is they're just playing sleight of hand. And we're going to talk more about that in the extended one on Rumble. So please, if you're not on Rumble yet, join me there, because I'm likely going to get kicked off here eventually, and then you'll lose connection to me otherwise. But and also, please come back and check the channel, because we often put up videos like my last one, which was around the prophecy of 1984, the book. And it got shadow banned. I can see the ones that get shadow banned because they don't really have any movement at all. So yeah, whenever you either hit that bell and the notification so it makes sure that you know that we're putting up the videos, or come and check back, because the videos with the least amount of views are often the ones that need to be heard the most, and that's why they're trying to keep it from you. And during this UFO invasion panic, they're using strobe lights and air raid signals and anti-aircraft fire. It was like a big show that they put on to try to get people all panicked and in fear and be like, protect us, we don't know where these are coming from. And they all probably expected it was from Japan, right? Because it's way easier to believe that it's Japan that's doing it rather than aliens. So this is how they work. They'll call it aliens, but they want us all to think it's either Russia or China, right? So is this the game they're playing? Well, let's see. I'm not going to spend too much time on this segment because it is being covered by many other independent channels. However, this train in Palestine does seem to be quite a serious situation. How bad is it really? When we see videos like this one here. So they're saying that this is a controlled burn. However, right after they made this decision, we found out what chemicals were on board. And they're saying that this was the stupidest idea ever, is to burn these chemicals. Sometimes we have to wonder, are we under attack by our own government? I know that is a serious allegation. However, a decision from one person or a group of people that'll say, let's burn this thing down, could be an act of war that has happened. I also believe that they like to program us with things that are going to happen. And that's why I look at a lot of the movies that you see, and you can see them in a different way if you watch them as a form of prophecy of the future. And the truth is there's an actual TV show on Netflix about this. I'm not even sure the name of it, but here's a little segment of the trailer. And this is from the same town. Some of the people that are in this town actually are in this TV show from Netflix. So what is going on? Do you think this is synchronicity by God or synchronicity made by Babylon? That's a question for you. Let's have a look.
Let's watch a sitcom or something.
No! They're calling it the airborne toxic event.
The airborne toxic event. They have acid rain coming down. We have dead fish floating around in the rivers. Here's a little video on that.
There's hundreds of them up here in this area across here. Hundreds. Another fish. Another fish. They're just everywhere. Fish. Fish. Fish.
I've seen lots and lots of different accounts of what's happening, and I've heard that there's many animals dying, including chickens. So just overnight, one woman had all her chickens die. So if that happens to the chickens in just overnight, what does it do to us in the long run? We have to think of what this is going to do in 5 or 10 years from now. Some people are saying that this could be close to as bad as Chernobyl, as far as the immediate outcome and the fallout. How bad is it going to get for the waters around here? How bad is it going to get for the people? But just keep looking at the UFO stuff. That's the important thing, okay? Another big thing that the mainstream media tries to do is keep you looking at things far, far away from your own home. And that keeps you passive and keeps you all frustrated about stuff that you can't even deal with. This next segment, and is the most important segment of this broadcast, I'm going to spend some time on it, is the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Has any of you heard of this? Well, this might be the most important thing that ever happened to Canada since the War of 1812. And I did a video on some stories around that, and I even had a little bit of a guess that this war was going to end, and this is the war that started in 1812 and is continuing on to this day. So you can check out that video right up here, wherever it ends up going. Before we get into this topic, let's just have a little look at what Canada says about this.
Have you heard of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples? This is a document that sets global standards to uphold the human rights of Indigenous peoples, also known as a human rights instrument. For decades, Indigenous leaders from Canada and around the world had advocated for and helped draft a declaration to promote and protect the rights of Indigenous peoples. In 2007, the United Nations adopted the Declaration. This declaration sets out a broad range of human rights. For example, it affirms such rights as the right of all Indigenous peoples to self-determination and self-government, to decide what is best for their communities and to participate in decisions that affect them, the right to have their treaties and agreements honored and respected, the right to use and teach their languages and histories and to practice their cultural traditions and customs, the right to access social and health services without discrimination and to improve their economic and social well-being, the right to be free from any kind of discrimination and to live in peace and security as distinct peoples. In Canada, the Declaration is a roadmap for the shared journey of reconciliation, one that respects the human rights of Indigenous peoples. To learn more about the Declaration and how Canada is working with Indigenous peoples to implement it, visit canada.ca/declaration.
So that sounds really quite beautiful, doesn't it? Well, like in our last broadcast, we showed the video that Edmonton put out about their 15-minute cities, and it sounds so wonderful. They never talk about any of the cons or any of the bad sides of these things, or even much about it at all. None of us even know about this. This is new to me. I thought I was in the know, and I'm just finding out now about this. Well, somebody that's been trying to yell off the top of buildings about this is Ron Vaillant. And go and I'll put his connection to his YouTube channel down below, and you should subscribe to him because he's letting people know about all the stuff. He's keeping a really good eye, and we're gonna go through one of his interviews that he did recently, probably about a week ago, and so it's the most up to date on this situation. And I've just taken a few cuts out of the interview just to talk about, but you should check and have a listen to the whole interview. I'll put it down below also.
And what the bill is, and it was introduced by the Trudeau government, and it said that all Canadian law has to be consistent with undrip, this document we're going to go look at, which is actually, I call it, a weapon of mass destruction is what it really is. And so that's where we're at now. And Canada was immediately implementing undrip.
That's weird how the Canadian government talks about what this is all about as such a beautiful and glorious thing. They talk about all the natives being free to do what they wish. I'm pretty sure they are free to do all those things, and I'm pretty sure everybody wants them to be free to do those things. However, I assume there's probably some hidden stuff going on if it's coming from the Canadian government, because we know they are far from protecting us. Is it the beautiful idea that's going to set the natives free, or is it a weapon of mass destruction? I believe it is going to be a very ugly time if we don't figure this out. People just don't know about this, and when they find out, they will fight. This will be straight up civil war. And that's why we need to speak about this to mitigate that from happening. We have to stand up against what this is. Do we really want to make the same mistakes that we made in the past? And this is why they do not want us to know about our history. When we look back at the War of 1812, the British told the natives, told Tecumseh, that they would have their own land and live free as natives, and the British would live on their own. That never happened. This is the same thing that's happening again. This is the same thing that's happening again. They're tricking these native tribes. So I've just found out about this undrip. However, I knew this was coming in my heart. I saw what they were doing. I saw the story that they were putting in everybody's hearts. I heard over and over from different people, the natives need to run our land. And we should not be looking at one race to run land. That is not how this works. We are all of one blood. And when we start to separate like this, all we've seen is atrocities in the past when this has happened. And are we going to be tricked again? Are these native tribes going to be tricked again? Are the people through this weaponized compassion going to be tricked again? If we look back to the War of 1812, Tecumseh was told by the British that they would keep their land and they could live sovereign away from the British. Did that ever happen? 70 years later, they hung a man, Louis Riel, fighting that same fight. Are we going to look back to history and realize that they are trying to do the same thing? So, a lot of people would say, maybe they're just stupid. Well, to be honest, I don't think these people are stupid. I think they're ignorant. I think they're smart enough to know what's going on. And it's either, in some of these situations, maybe it is just bread or lead. And they choose the bread. I've made some videos on this topic, not on undrip, just on the identity politics and kind of some philosophy on how we can look at this situation from situations from the past. When we look what's happening in between the Jews and the Palestinians, we can see it's the same kind of thing that's happening here. And we've seen all the times where these atrocities happen. Will we learn? And I saw this this little ditty come out of the news a while back, over a year or so ago. And I saw this and I was like, ooh, that's something that they put out there on purpose. Because they always say these little things to us because something's coming. Here, let's have a listen to this.
You don't have an absolute right to own private property in Canada. It is there are steps that are taken when expropriations happen at whatever level of government, and we'll be sure to stay within those boundaries.
Oh, how sweet. Expropriation. We don't have right to private property in Canada? Whoa. When I saw that, it was just another thing that added on to what I was seeing, and it showed where we were heading. Tecumseh died in battle, and the Americans tore him limb from limb. Louis Riel died for this cause. The Canadian government called it the Red River Massacre. I call it the Red River Rebellion. What side of history are you on? And I mean now, what side of history are you on? Let's look at a few little sections of this interview. It's really important. Please go and read and have a listen to it.
I think it was 2014 or 16, I forget now, but basically the council running the city of Vancouver unanimously, agreed that 3 Indian bands basically are the rights and title holders of all the land under the city of Vancouver, So you can see where we're going with this, right? This is the implications of what's happening. And then they're talking about, because you have to make, compensation to them because we're on their land, that there might be a tax coming up, for people to pay. And my advice to you is that if you go and pay, if there's any kind of a tax or a fee for Indigenous affairs or compensation for land use, and you just go along to get along and pay for it, then essentially what you're doing is just agreeing that they are the rights and title holders of the land that you're on, right?
This is why Justin Trudeau called us, all the unpoked people, racists and misogynists. They had stuff coming ready to prove their point. See, as soon as they play these games of identity politics, you're not allowed to even speak about these things. And that's why any of us that speak up, be ready to be called a racist. Be ready for all kinds of gaslighting and straw manning. And that's us being the meek. That's us having our swords, knowing how to use them, but keeping them sheathed. Keep your sword sheathed, but make sure you know how to use it so you can speak to these people. I'm telling you, there's going to be a battle around this. The sooner that we speak, the more we mitigate the outcome of this battle. So I look at this situation. There's 3 Indian bands that are working with the city of Vancouver, which is one of the most corrupt cities in Canada. If there was somebody that we could get out there to investigate, that's a good place to start, is investigate those 3 bands and see who are the leaders that are in there. And I guarantee that they are bought. So, allegedly. That's a good place to start. Also, Saskatoon also has got this going on. So there's another place. Those are places where we can start to research the corruption of these situations.
I just had a discussion with a fellow who's very well knowledgeable about stuff behind the scenes, and he was saying that there's financial incentives to do this if you go ahead and just sign up for the program, it's like $5 million, and then if you go ahead and do a certain percentage of the targets that they're asking for, then you get 50 million, and if you do all the targets that they're asking for, you get 100 million.
They're even buying people right out in the open. Okay? Vancouver and British Columbia are one of the most cash-rich places ever because of the cannabis industry, which means we're one of the most corrupt places in all of Canada. Let's carry on.
Then you read Article 26, and it says the Indigenous peoples have the rights to the lands, territories, and resources to which they have traditionally owned, occupied, or otherwise used. Okay? Or acquired.
That is so unclear. And this is what's being put upon us by the United Nations. These people are not elected leaders. Owned, occupied, or otherwise used or acquired? So does that mean that they can just walk through the land and say that was my land in the past? I walked through there? This is so unclear that they can just do almost anything with this kind of corruption. This is just super dangerous. All right, next little clip.
Right now, okay, as we saw in BC, we saw that all the Crown land has new owners, right? And it's all of BC now, really, is what it is. It's you can see it in Vancouver. All of BC has been claimed, and all of Canada is being claimed right now as we speak. If not, it's already not happened. I think it's already happened. They're just going through the process now of, bringing it forward.
So I wonder why they're trying to take away the guns. They know what's going to happen once the people find out about this. I did a video on gun control, and here, I'll chuck that video right up here, wherever it goes there also. But we have to know that the meek must have swords. And of course, they're going to try to take the swords away. A lot of people say, aren't the conservatives going to help us here? Isn't Daniel Smith going to help us? Isn't Pierre Pavlov, whatever his name is, going to help us? Well, let's just have a little look at these little videos here.
Because they're going to bring everything from China into North America through the north, through the Arctic, down through the Hudson Bay, through Churchill, Manitoba. And they're going to CP Rail will redo that whole railway all the way down the middle of North America.
Because if we could get an economic trade route along our northern territories between our three provinces, we can get access to a port that will allow us to export our products internationally. And so I propose that we meet in Churchill, which is the foundation for a port that might be able to begin that. We're going to work with our First Nations and Métis to make them equal partners in ownership. We're going to address the environmental issues of caribou habitat. And the federal government tells us, wait a minute, you're invading our jurisdiction. I'll just say, look, we've got the right to develop our resources, them to market. Our First Nations, under the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, they have the right to be able to develop their resources too.
Do you think that this woman is going to help us? Or do you think that she's just been controlled opposition? Let me know down below, and let's talk this out. How about Pierre? Well, let's have a little listen to this video.
We will restore to First Nations more control of their land, money, and decision-making. And those communities that want to develop resources and invite commerce to fight poverty will have an ally rather than an obstacle in me.
Well, yeah, that sounds really nice. Well, when this finally does get to the people are going to start asking questions. You know what they're going to say? We talked about it. And then they'll point out that they had talked about it, right? This is a serious situation. And if people are out there wonder if there's any enforcement upon this, well, here, check out this little video.
You are illegal here in my country, in my lands. So you want to talk about these type of people. What people are you talking about?
Well, that's a good question, ma'am. You have been the only one.
And you just disrespected my land.
How did I disrespect the land? I thought this was the public square.
These people are my Indigenous people. This is Indigenous land.
Okay. So what's the rule? That no, I guess, white people are allowed here?
Not colonialism.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get educated, ma'am. You're saying it's Indigenous land. What should I do then to respect the Indigenous land?
People respect our laws and respect the people that are in this sacred circle. Don't come in here and antagonize people and getting paid for it. That's why they're there. They pay you to do.
This is a sacred circle? It looks like a bunch of tents made out of the elements of the petrochemical industry.
Yeah? Well,
so if you can see behind me, this tent city where people are staying overnight, it's an autonomous zone, and this is not considered trespassing, but somebody simply practicing journalism, simply trying to tell the other side of the story. Any event, folks, welcome to John Tory's Toronto in 2020. There's no other way of sugarcoating it. The lunatics are running the asylum.
So the police walked off Rebel News from public place when he was reporting on it. Whose side do you think the government is on, it is quite obvious that this is going to be enforced and that we're going to have a wild world ahead of us. And you can see this woman that comes up and says, "This is my land, you're disrespecting it." You can see that it comes from a resentment that's deep down inside. Many people try to look outside themselves for the pathology instead of trying to heal the trauma inside themselves so they can get past all of this racism. We are known by our fruits, not by what skin color we have, what religion we follow, none of those things. We are judged by our fruits. What separates the colonized by the uncolonized, or the domesticated and the indigenous, is whether our mind is colonized. It has nothing to do with our race. We've all been colonized from way back at different times in different parts of our lineage. We are in the time that we can all be free from this. However, those who are pointing all outside of themselves at the colonized are really just projecting out to the world. That resentment and racism will stop when you free your mind. So we're going to stop the broadcast now on YouTube and we're going to go right over to Rumble. So the next part of this, you can come on over, but there's supposed to be this list that's being released, as you can see right here. So we're going to talk about that over in Rumble. And also I'm going to have a little rant about the poke because I haven't done that yet. So come on over and join me for that.